Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Thursday, February 17th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. We begin with breaking news. Governor Newsom just a short time ago laying out his plans to move California into a new phase of the pandemic. And KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman is live in the newsroom with the details of his plan. Matt?
Maya, the governor says his endemic plan is about balance, a message of hope, but also a message of preparedness. As we work our way through the pandemic, endemic means that we're not going anywhere anytime soon. It's called the Smarter Plan, and each letter represents a strategy: shots, masks, awareness, readiness, testing, education, and RX treatments. For shots, the governor says vaccines are the best protection against the virus. There will be a renewed focus on vaccines for younger kids and boosters for those individuals. M is for masks. Doctors know that they work, and state officials say there may be a time, depending on variants, where we need to all wear masks again. A is awareness, and we're talking about surveillance and what could trigger action again. R is readiness, to be prepared to tackle a new variant or anything new. T stands for testing. This is something that will continue to be made available for all Californians. E is education. The governor says schools need to be open, but they need to be safe for in-person instruction. And finally, R is for RX treatments, things like monoclonal antibodies and antivirals that reduce the risk of severe illness. The governor says that science and equity will guide this plan.
And so it's in, again, that spirit of optimism that we now move into a new phase of addressing the challenges and realities of this disease. We move out of the pandemic phase, and we move into a phase which should allow you confidence that we are not walking away, that we're taking the lessons learned and we're leaning into the future.
There will be metrics for what could trigger restrictions again. They include case counts and hospitalization rates. Maybe some good news for business owners here. The governor's top doctor says that restrictions under the tier system, that color-coded ones such as closed indoor dining and limited capacity, are hopefully a thing of the past. Now, state officials say they are going to be working closely with local governments on this. And actually, we just received word from San Diego County Supervisor Chair Nathan Fletcher. He says that this plan is a responsible approach to turning the page on the crisis mindset that has defined COVID, and that accepting the reality that while the virus will continue to exist, we must live our lives with a sense of normalcy. In the newsroom, Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
And some parents are calling for schools to drop the mask mandates. Coming up on Evening Edition, why the CDC says it's still too soon for kids to unmask. A dire warning from President Joe Biden when asked if Russian invasion of Ukraine is imminent. The president saying, quote, "My sense is this will happen within the next several days." Reporter Chris Nguyen now with more on the escalating situation.
More tension along the Ukraine-Russia border as America tries to use diplomacy as a solution to the crisis. President Joe Biden warning that an invasion of Ukraine could happen within the next several days.
Every indication we have is they're prepared to go into Ukraine, attack Ukraine.
Despite the Kremlin's claim it pulled some forces back, the U.S. says Russia has added 7,000 troops along the Ukrainian border in recent days. These estimates would place the total number north of 150,000, according to officials.
The basic principles that sustain peace and security, principles that were enshrined in the wake of 2 world wars and a Cold War, are under threat.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken appeared before the United Nations Thursday morning, claiming Russia plans to manufacture a justification to invade Ukraine.
I am here today not to start a war, but to prevent one.
Meanwhile, Russia has expelled the second most senior diplomat at the U.S. Embassy in Moscow in what the Biden administration views as an escalatory move. The step comes as the Kremlin sent a written response to U.S. security proposals, saying the increasing U.S. and NATO military activity close to Russian borders is alarming, according to Russian state media.
It will be Mr. Putin who will bear the responsibility for the suffering and the immense sacrifice that ensues.
Chris Wynn, KPBS News.
And the situation in Ukraine, refinery issues are all playing a part when it comes to rising gas prices. Here in our county, they are now at record highs. And as KPBS's John Carroll tells us, things could get much worse.
It sucks. It definitely sucks.
Horrible, 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 horrible. I hate it, hate it, hate it. We're like going broke.
Forget pain at the pump. These prices make filling up more like sheer agony.
Yeah, man, it's ridiculous.
Here are the numbers. We're now paying an average of $4.74 a gallon in San Diego. Glass half full, at least we're not paying the highest average prices in the state. That dubious honor falls to San Luis Obispo, where the average price sits at a whopping $4.91 a gallon. Contrast that to the national average of $3.51 a gallon, which seems like a bargain to us. The price of gas has been climbing steadily here since the end of 2020.
California sits at #1 in the nation for the highest statewide average.
So why is that? The Auto Club's Doug Shoup says there are a number of reasons.
The aggression between Russia and Ukraine, which is putting upward pressure on the crude oil prices. We're seeing an increase in demand for fuel. And then also the more expensive summer blend fuel.
And we might not have seen the end of rising prices, especially if Russia goes ahead and invades Ukraine.
Some are saying that we could see pump prices increase another 50 to 75 cents per gallon.
Despite that, Shoup says AAA doesn't expect the higher prices to lead to any significant cutback in driving.
Because people still need to get to where they need to be, especially driving to work or driving to care for loved ones.
Shoup has some tips for saving gas. Make sure your tires are properly inflated. Lighten the load of your vehicle. Don't carry extra junk around. Avoid jackrabbit starts and don't speed. And shop around for the cheapest gas. AAA has a free mobile app that, among other things, shows you the cheapest prices in your area. And with prices like these, anything you can do to ease the agony at the pump is well worth it. John Carroll, KPBS News.
San Diego Congressman Juan Vargas joined a growing list of Democratic representatives who are criticizing the Biden administration for its treatment of asylum seekers at the border. KPBS border reporter Gustavo Solis explains why some Democrats are disappointed with the president.
The Biden administration continues to implement two of President Donald Trump's most controversial asylum policies, Remain in Mexico and Title 42. Vargas represents San Diego's border region and is one of 29 Democrats who signed a letter asking the Biden administration to stop the Remain in Mexico program. It forces asylum seekers to live in Mexico while their cases are adjudicated. Biden initially terminated the program, but brought it back after a federal judge ruled that Biden's action violated proper administrative procedure.
That's a horrible program. We never should have done it. We should have challenged the court. We should have told the court no, taken it all the way up.
More recently, Vargas was one of 33 Democrats who signed a letter demanding the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to end Title 42, a public health order that allows Border Patrol agents to turn away asylum seekers without due process. The order was first implemented during the start of the pandemic and has remained in place despite criticisms from medical associations like Doctors Without Borders.
Let's get back to normal as we should. Let's not use these things that I think have been very damaging.
Vargas was the only member of San Diego's congressional delegation to sign both letters. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
Local law enforcement says they've shut down nearly all the illegal cannabis dispensaries in the East County. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado has details on the enforcement efforts announced today.
County Supervisor Joel Anderson says illegal marijuana dispensaries were rampant in his district, operating in neighborhoods next to schools, even advertising. He says they were crime-ridden operations.
So right next to your house is somebody with a sawed-off shotgun. There's somebody with an AK-47. There's all sorts of illegal weapons there, and we had murders. We had gang members from LA coming down here to prey on us, and we're putting a stop to it.
He says after working with his fellow supervisors, the district attorney and the sheriff's department to expand their marijuana enforcement team and have tougher punishments, the dispensaries have nearly disappeared in the unincorporated area of East County. DA Summer Stephan says her office has prosecuted 70 people involved in these operations, and charges include robbery, extortion, and murder.
One of the things that is really heartbreaking is all the crime that comes along with these illegal dispensaries. If you'll remember the murder that happened in Spring Valley, and the fact that gangsters from Los Angeles were coming down to prey on the community with the illegal dispensaries being a hub for criminal behavior.
In 2021 alone, they had 50 cases where 93 guns were recovered, 127 arrests were made, and over $440,000 in illegal proceeds was recovered.
Acting Sheriff Kelly Martinez says they also seized over 36,000 pounds of illegal marijuana and other products, some of them targeting children, with packaging that looks like candy, instead THC-infused edibles.
The organized operators of these businesses did not discriminate and allowed youth access, and they often look like legitimate businesses.
Board of Supervisors Chair Nathan Fletcher had a stern warning for anyone who is operating an illegal dispensary or even thinking about it.
We're going to keep our community safe, and if you are an illegal, illicit cannabis operation, we are going to shut you down and we are going to prosecute you.
Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
The pandemic burnout is real, but so is the risk of catching COVID. While some parents are pushing for officials to drop mask mandates in schools, the CDC says it's still too soon. Britt Conway explains why.
We're fighting against a burning desire among the country to get this over with.
75% of Americans in a recent poll say they are over this pandemic. They're burned out. But opinion on whether we should learn to live with COVID-19 or continue to fight it is split. But health experts say it has to be both. Fight it, but no, it's not going to disappear.
The best we can hope for is to get it down so low. That's when we could say, you know what? We have virus in the community, but it's not disrupting our function. And I believe we can get there.
We're not there yet, but new cases nationwide, overall hospitalizations and deaths are dropping. And that's what cities and states around the country are looking at. Only 3 states and Puerto Rico have yet to announce an end to mask mandates. But the CDC isn't changing its mask guidance, not yet anyway.
It will be based on the data and the science.
Same goes for kids in school. Health experts say it's too soon to stop masking.
It is really not prudent to pull masks off children. You could create a risk that you would see an increase in infections.
But the truth is, it's not up to officials in D.C.
We know that local officials will make their own judgments about what works best for their schools, but we're hopeful that local officials will really carefully consider all the science.
I'm Britt Conway reporting.
We got some much-needed rain this week, but it's not even close to what we need to get us out of the drought. Tuesday's storm was only the second rain event we've had since the start of January, a time when we typically see the most rain. Experts are calling the situation across California a mega drought. However, the San Diego County Water Authority is confident about our water supply because of steps taken 30 years ago to expand to multiple regions.
Even if we don't have snow in the Northern California area, we're fine. And in fact, last year we got less than 1% of our water out of Northern California. So we do monitor it. It is part of the big picture. But right now we've set ourselves up to have multiple supplies, so it doesn't necessarily impact us here.
And the Water Authority says conservation efforts have also helped with our supply.
The winds will be weakening down tonight as we really talk about some quiet, mild weather heading through the next couple of days. But by the end of the weekend, we're going to start to see that pattern change coming into next week. And that's going to mean some more clouds for us, even eventually cooler weather, possibly even a few showers. Tonight, though, we're looking again quiet across the region. 43 for the low, Oceanside 34 for you. And as you look towards Mount Laguna, 36. So some cool weather out there heading through the night. But your Friday is mild, dry, and really not much happening. That's a story around most of the Southwest, so it's not just us feeling those quiet conditions. As we head through tomorrow, we're at 70 for the high. Meanwhile, 71 in Oceanside. Head towards Ramona, we're at 71, and Borrego Springs coming in the mid-70s. So again, lots of mild air out there. That story holds even for Saturday, where we get a bit more offshore flow, but other than a few clouds, maybe slightly cooler temperatures towards the coast, we are still largely staying dry and quiet. So what changes then? Well, as we get into Sunday, we'll even see more of that increase of clouds, more of that onshore flow, and temperatures, they start to ease off for the coastal locations. We could be talking about more of a stormy pattern into Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. So that's why we stay then in the lower 60s and add that chance of showers. So some good news for us, actually, as we venture towards next week, because we do need that rain. Inland communities venturing into the 70s here, mid-70s throughout much of the weekend, or even lower 70s. It's really next week when that cool air takes hold with those extra clouds and possibly even those showers getting into the middle of the week. So this will be a new storm system trying to work its way through the west, including our region of Southern California. And that's why we do see for mountain communities temperatures back into the upper 30s, possibly some snow showers mixing in on Tuesday. That's part of those big changes. But again, quiet through the weekend. Same thing for the deserts. Quiet through the weekend, in the 80s on Sunday before we start to cool down next week. For KPBS News, I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Melissa Constanzer.
More employees now say they'd prefer to keep working remotely. The Pew Research study found some 60% would like to keep working from home all or most of the time. And many said they still fear being exposed to COVID, but 75% say they just prefer it. 64% say remote working has improved their work-life balance, and about 1/3 cited childcare. Others say it saves them money, it saves them gas, commute time, especially since they haven't received a raise. 17% have also relocated over the past 2 years. Lots of people adopted dogs during COVID, and lots of people got used to letting those dogs run freely at parks and school fields. But now, KPBS reporter Claire Tregesser says a new program is aiming to put those dogs back on leash with costly citations for dog owners.
Sierra Dockery spots him from the parking lot, a loose pit bull running around a fenced-in basketball court. She parks her SUV and hops out.
There's a couple signs that I see right now that mandate dogs have to be on a leash, so we'll go make that contact.
The dog's owner is not happy to see Dockery.
You know what? We've been doing it, and they all wave to her and say hi and good morning.
So,
no one's asked us to leave before.
Since I'm speaking with you, I'm going to go ahead and enter. If you can go ahead and leash the dog for my safety, I just want to make sure.
Dockery listens to the woman with a calm and gentle demeanor, but stays firm. She writes a ticket, which could end up costing her almost $300.
Good job. Good job. You're doing a great job. Helping families and friends.
Just another day at the office for Dockery, who looks a lot like a police officer in her tight bun, navy blue uniform, and utility belt. But her employer isn't a police department, it's the San Diego Humane Society. She's part of a new park patrol enforcement program the Humane Society started in 2021 to address a pandemic-era problem. The number of scofflaw dog owners ballooned during COVID.
Once they reopened, I feel like people kind of flooded back to the parks and beaches, and people had that love of outdoors once again.
The Humane Society is now giving out about 200 citations a month. That's a 5-fold increase from early in the pandemic. About a third went to parks in Pacific Beach and Ocean Beach, and Dockery says they pay special attention to school fields.
Some specific joint uses have become, let's say, like unofficial dog parks.
That creates problems with dogs digging holes or leaving poop that kids step in.
And then, of course, with off-leash dogs, there's always that risk of someone being attacked, a dog being attacked, someone being bit.
And all of a sudden, this dog, jumped on her.
That's exactly what happened to Belen Hernando's 3-year-old daughter, Alba, at Trolley Barn Park in University Heights.
We ended up in the hospital. She was traumatized.
Alba had to get stitches and now struggles with a deep fear of dogs. People insist their dog is friendly and well-behaved, but Alba doesn't know that.
But it really changed, our whole family dynamic, right? And the way
we spend our free time because we really, again, we couldn't come here, you know, because again, dogs were unleashed. Again, my daughter was traumatized with all what happened here. And then just going to any other park, we found that it happens the same.
On a recent Wednesday evening, several dogs run freely at a field in Allied Gardens that's also being used for kids' soccer and baseball games. Marty Marcus lets his dog Ellie off leash, and she barks and runs in circles as he talks.
For the most part, the people that come down here do control their dogs. Mine is barking a lot. She wants to run and play, and yes, she has bumped into you a few times. But outside of that, most of the dogs down here are reasonably well behaved.
Marcus says he does worry about getting a citation.
Dog still needs exercise, and there are very few dog parks in the area.
This dog's digging a hole actively.
Back on her patrol, Dockery rolls through a busy park and spots two people watching their dogs run off leash.
They're looking at it and not doing anything.
She drives up to the young couple, hops out, and writes them each a citation.
Do you know of any dog parks?
Not really.
Okay, because there's like one literally down the street. It's about 3 minutes from here, Cape Hart Park.
The couple sheepishly accepts their $300 tickets and promises they won't break the rules again. Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, why Western nations say shelling in eastern Ukraine could provide a false pretext for Russia to invade. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
They're not an Olympic category, at least not yet, but esports have been growing in popularity. Yes, we're talking about video games organized as a team sport and the pathway they can provide to scholarship opportunities. KPBS Peak City Heights reporter Jacob Ayer shows us the new gaming facility at Hoover High School.
An already thriving esports team got a recent upgrade at Hoover High School, not in a video game, but in real life. The club has a brand new space on campus dedicated to competitive gaming, and it's fully stocked with high-end computers, gaming chairs, headphones, and a lot more.
I'd say the most popular game that's running on right now, at least in this esports, is still Rocket League, Super Smash Bros, and Valorant.
Club captain and Hoover High School senior Henry Huang says the new room is a huge improvement from before.
I remember I first joined the esports club here at Hoover during my sophomore year, and we kind of had like a little underground, I would say, dungeon area. And we'd usually play on the school computers. We never kind of had that luxury of trying to build one.
Please do not mistake my smile. I take this all very seriously.
For every sports team, there is a coach. For Hoover High School's esports club, it's Jack Wetzel, who also runs the robotics club and teaches math and computer science at the school. He's been in charge of the program since 2016.
I think the esports is just any digital sport, and ranging from anything from chess to these competitive first-person shooters. But if I was going to say what it is here at Hoover, it's really a community, and it's about students having a safe place where they have like-minded people to collaborate and be friends with.
Are you joining us?
Yeah. Huang says esports provide him an escape from real-world difficulties while spending time with his friends, which has been a challenge since the pandemic.
I didn't really have anything to talk to, so I would always just play games and having social interactions on there.
I get away with these things.
Hoover High is just one example of the blossoming esports scene in San Diego. San Diego State is about to launch a new certificate program called Business of Esports, which is open to people of all ages. Newton Lee will be one of the professors. He sees esports in line with social media platforms, but says they offer competition for all and are more inclusive than traditional sports.
It doesn't matter if you're black or white or a kid or an old man or old woman or, you know, high IQ, low IQ, physical disabled or, physically strong. They all can compete in the same game. That's amazing. To me, that is truly amazing. You cannot see that in any physical sport.
Wetzel says the new room is just the start. They already have competitions set up with other schools from around the area And he plans to try to make esports a lettering sport in high school.
High School Esports League is the national organization that's helping gather everybody together, and they're the ones that actually host those games. And then from there, the colleges are looking on those websites to see which teams are scoring highest, which ones are doing well through the competitions. And then on top of that, there's actual scholarships from High School Esports League.
Professor Lee says the future of esports is very bright. In fact, he sees the new SDSU esports program and other similar educational offerings as a gateway into the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics fields.
It makes them, especially high school students, more curious about, well, maybe, I'm not going to be a professional gamer, but I can design new hardware. Or, oh, I'm really good in art. I can do animation. So that's something that they may not have thought of if there were no esports.
Professor Lee says one of the biggest challenges for the esports industry at the moment is the need to introduce more women. But he says it will be difficult because of a number of players creating a toxic environment for women in online gaming circles. That being said, there are efforts underway, such as creating more collaborative and less violent video games to bridge the gender gap and open a virtual door on esports to all.
Last player standing.
Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.